welcome back to New Note Bootcamp. This is the second week, and we're going to talk a little bit about the range of the nap before we launch into stuff. So if you can recall back to last week, we looked at the song Amazing Grace, and in that tune, we determined that the root of the scale was actually on 4. So therefore, the notes can, and this is very common in most music, appear below the root note. It's not something we think about on the Native American flute so much because we're very bottom note centric, and so we can't go below the bottom note. But for most instruments, that's not the case at all. And in fact, having notes below the root is a very powerful and effective thing. So now we could go up to the root, which is a 10, and we could kind of creep up that way, but those notes are very hard to play. 10 sharp, I mentioned, I don't even know if you can even play that on a flute. I've never found it. I wouldn't even bother anyway. So what we can do is we can take notes that are higher up and we can lower them to make them fit the range of the nap, and then we can adapt them to work on the tunes we want. So just a quick review. So we have a 6. I just call it 6. It's actually the major version of the 6 if you're going from the bottom of the flute, which is how number tab works. The standard fingering's on the left, and then an alternate is on the right, which depending upon your flute, if it plays the same note with both of those fingerings, then you can play your flute with that alternate fingering. And I prefer that one most of the time. There are times when I don't use it. And then the 9, which is the octave of the second note, so it's 1 above 8. And there are no standard fingerings for this. I have flutes that play with the 4 middle holes closed and sometimes with that lower fork fingering. All right. So we're going to continue to look at a major scale built on number tab 4, what I'm informally calling a 4 major. It's not an official term, but it just sort of helps identify things with the number tab system. And we're also going to continue to use solfege. Now, solfege names the notes without changing our number tab system. So we can assign do to a specific note. In a major scale, we have do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do that come up to it. And we're going to look today, right now, at the last note of the scale T. So if you are thinking about a major scale, for example, so this is a C major scale. And if I play this on a piano, that's T, and there's our octave, or do again. Now, if I sit on that T and I don't finish the scale, your brain wants to hear the do again, doesn't it? It's very powerful, right? Or I could play the scale below it. This is a G major scale. Whoops. And just sit on that note. And you want to hear, right? You want to hear that. And that's called a leading tone. And the song, Do, Re, Mi, from The Sound of Music, even says that T is the note that will bring us back to do. If you remember that from Sound of Music. So obviously we can't play a half step below the bottom note of the nap, but we can make one a half step below number tab 4. And that note is a sharp 3. And this is the fingering for a sharp 3, and then what I'm guessing is the fingering for a 10 sharp. Again, I don't even think it's physically possible to play that on a Native American flute. So sharp 3 is the third note from the bottom note of the scale, which is normally minor. We raise it up to make it major, and it's a half step below 4. And you don't have to know what that really means. You're going to hear it. All right, so let's play these notes slowly. I'm going to start with an A here. I'll play it first, and then if you want to play along, that's fine, and then I'll go back and I'll count in and I'll play it. And I'm just moving around the 4, which is the root of our scale, and I'm using this 3 to kind of identify that. Okay, if you want to play along, I'll count 4 beats, and then we'll start on 1 again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. Let's look at a couple more of these. I'll play the top one. If you want to want to play along with me? I'm still in A. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I'm going to move to the line below. I'll play it once and then I'll count it in. Notice I'm dropping from the 5 down to the 3 sharp. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll do it again. 2, 3, 4. One more. Gonna skip around here a little bit on the second to the last measure. I'm doing this just so you can hear how this note, the sharp 3, is functioning. I'll play it and I'll count in. I'll do it a little slower if you want to play along. 1, 2, 3, 4. One more time. 2, 3, 4. Okay, so now for a 4 major scale, again, that's an informal term. 4 is do, 5 is re, 6 is mi, 7 is fa, and 8 is sol. Now, I'm going to play this one, and I'm going to stop on the 3 sharp. And listen in your mind to what you think the next note you want to hear is. You want to hear this, right? Because the 3 sharp is functioning as the T of this scale. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. For example, let me go to a different note. I'll go back down to 1 at the end instead of the 4. That doesn't sound like the home note, does it? How about 5? Still want to hear more, right? There's still some tension. I'll go to 6. That's really weird, right? The note we want to hear is the 4, because it's functioning as the leading tone or the 7th degree of that scale. Now, what's really going on here, and this is something you're going to have to imagine, is you can see I have 3 do's here. They're underlined in red. And the middle one is the 4 in the NAF system. And then a half step below that, we have T. So you can see how it works there. Now, on either side of that middle do, I have 2 other do's. So this is 2 octaves, or 2 replications of the scale, starting an octave below the 4 that we can play, going up to that 4, and then continuing. So imagine if your NAF could play this. You could start on a tune in the middle, and you could go up and down and anywhere you wanted to in relationship to the root note of the scale. Well, we can't really play 2 octaves, obviously, but in reality, these are the notes that we theoretically can play. So again, here's the do in the middle, just like the last picture I showed you. And if we count up from that, we have do, re, mi, fa, sol, and then la, if we go all the way to 9. And then sol, if we go back to the very left-hand side, is also the bottom note of the instrument, or 1 in number tab. And if you want a half hole, you get la. So you'll see we get sol, la, ti, do coming from below, just like you would in a normal instrument. The one outlier here is la as a 2 is kind of, you have to half hole it. So it can be done, but it's not great. But it is there. So effectively, I could play this all the way up to sol, drop down, and come back up from the bottom. So the notes are there. They're just kind of awkward, right? So let's play this scale. I'm going to skip the half hole just because I think it's awkward. We're going to look at the half holes later. I decided to do that over the weekend. Let me play this first, and then I'll count it in. Okay, so that's the notes Now I'll count it in. We'll do it a little slower. And let's all do this together. I'm still on A. So 1, 2, 3, 4. One more time. 2, 3, 4. So this is a song in the book. This is the beginning of it. This is called Dream's End. And the song actually is in a 4 major scale. And you'll see here in this first, just the beginnings of it, when I end the first phrase, I'm using the 3 sharp to bring it home. Now, if I played that without the 3 sharp and I just played it with a 3, completely different sound, right? Because I don't have that raised 7th degree. If you want to play this with me, I'll count in 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is another song from the book. This is Cowboy Waltz. So again, I'm using the 3 sharp as the 7th degree to get us back to do. And remember, by the way, that accidentals, which the sharp 3 has to be because it's not in the key signature, are only good for 1 measure. And they apply to that note for the rest of the measure unless something changes it. So in the second to last measure that you see here, this last 3 here, the sharp is carried over. But I have to put it here because in measure 6, that sharp 3 gets nullified when I cross the bar line. So I have to put it back in. And this is why whenever you see something that has a flat 6, for example, it'll be in every single measure. Because as soon as it crosses the bar line, we have to put it back in. All right. I guess if you guys want to play this with me, I could count it in 6. I'd rather do it in 2. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I'll count it in 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Obviously, the song goes on, so we don't play that next note. So you can see here now I'm getting a much more of a tonality of the sound of major by incorporating this tone, this note, the T, the 3 sharp. Now here's simple gifts. Again, we have a sharp 6, which I've been using all along. I don't know if you've noticed that. I haven't really been notating it, but I put it in here. And then the sharp 3. So if you want to play along, I'm still going to be in A. Maybe I'll take this a little slower. It starts on 4, so I'll count to 3, and then we'll start to play on 4. So 1, 2, 3. Now, question here at the bottom, does this remind you at all of Amazing Grace? It should. The piece starts with a pickup. that's on the bottom note of the flute. It's the 5 below what is now the root, and it ends on 4, which is the root. So they share a similar thing, and this is a very common thing for songs to start with a pickup on the 5th note of the scale, but below the root of the scale. So this is why you'll see these songs adapted for the Native American flute this way, because we're having to move things around because of the limited note choices that we have with them. Here's Home on the Range. Again, this has a half hole in it, and I removed it. And you'll see here that, again, this starts on a pickup that's on the 5th note of the scale below the 4, right? Because if 8 is the 5th note of the scale, then if we drop it down an octave, we're on 1, right? So again, very, very, very similar. If you want to play this with me, I guess I can count this in. This starts on a pickup on a 3/4 measure. So what I'll do is I'll count 1 full measure, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, and then we'll start on the second 3. So you'll get 1 completely full measure and then 1 with 2 beats, and you start on the 3rd beat. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Again, like Amazing Grace, like Simple Gifts, like some other songs we've looked at, we're starting below the root and jumping up to it. Now, we've talked about major and minor. And the last several songs that we've seen have been playing in a major scale with the root note on 4, with Do on 4. So what I'm formally calling a 4 major. Now, we can also play a minor scale with its root note on 4. And this is done by lowering 2 of the notes that we're playing so far. This is a 6 to a flat 6 and a sharp 3 to a 3. Now, I'm going to take a minute to show you this in real music, but first off, before I get to that, let's just say that major and minor are types of tonalities. You know, if we talk about something, we say it's in a major key, we're talking about its tonality, how it sounds. And tonality, again, describes the way the intervals, the scales, and the chords interact that produce a hierarchy that centers on a root note and the chord that's built on it. And sometimes tonality is synonymous with key, so they can be interchangeable. And a scale is major or minor depending upon several factors. So let me show you this. I don't know if this will help or not, but I thought I would show this to you. So again, here I have a C major scale on this top line here. So C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. And if I play it, we get a major scale. Now, what happens with a minor scale is we could take a major scale as an example of it, and we're going to lower 3 of the notes. We're going to lower the 3rd note, the 3rd scale degree. We're going to lower the 6th scale degree. And we're going to lower the 7th scale degree. So let me flatten these. So this is what C minor would look like, as opposed to. So the difference between major and minor is we lower the 3rd note of the scale from a major to a minor, and we lower the 6th and 7th also from a major to minor. Now again, I don't know if this helps because, you know, this is in the context of regular music, and if you aren't really have a background with that, it may not help. But that's what's going on. So we're going to lower the 3rd note of the scale by lowering the 6 to a 6 flat, because if 4 is Do, 5 is Re, Mi is 6, and if we want to make that minor, we lower it to a flat 6, so it's Do, Re, Mi, right? So that's the 6th flat. Just review that fingering. And if we play what's called a broken chord on 4, and we use the major 6, we're going to get what sounds like a major chord on number tab 4. So this is the notes of a major chord. I can't play them all at once. I could on a piano. Oh, I'm in, that'd be C. When I'm in A, right? No, it's 4. So it's going to be D. Sorry to transpose there. Right? Those are the notes I'm playing. It's a D major chord. Because I'm playing an A flute. If I was playing G, it'd be something else. Now, if I lower the 3rd part of the scale to 6 flat, I get a minor chord. That one note changes that part of the scale. All right. Here they are, back to back. And I'm going to play through the top line, stop, and then immediately play the bottom line. And then I'll have maybe you guys do this too. And we're going to start, the top line is major, the bottom line is going to be minor. I just want you to hear the difference. One sounds a little bright and happy, the other one sounds a little dark, a little bit more moody. If you want to try playing that at home, go ahead and do it on your own. No reason to count it in. So again, the top one is major, do, re, mi, and the bottom one is minor, do, re, me, if you know the solfege system. Okay. Now, we talked about lowering another note. We had to lower note 3, we had to lower note 6 and 7. So we need to look at a new note before we can do that in the scale. And that's the 9 flat. So 9 sits on top of the staff. Normally it has a sharp on it, because it's in the key signature. So when we put a natural sign on it, we are lowering this note in relationship to the notes that are in the key of 4 sharps. So we're flattening it in relationship to the key of the 4 sharps, the F sharp Dorian. And this fingering is the pretty common fingering. So we call this a 9 flat because we're flattening the normal note as it's presented in the key signature. Okay, and 9 is the octave of 2. So it's our infamous half hole. So here's some exercises. And when you go above the octave, you always maybe have to give it a little bit more gas. Go ahead and play this with yourself. I don't think I need to count it. Your turn. All right, and let's flip it over. We're going to come up from the 7. And again, if I'm playing it a little faster than you feel comfortable, slow it down. I tend to play a little faster anyway, even though I shouldn't. Now, we're going to look at this more as notes that we can actually play, but just to show you the diagram of this, this is the 4 minor scale. So we have do on 4, 5 is re, me is the 6th flat, this is the minor 3rd, then fa, then sol, they don't change. Then we have the 9 flat because we've lowered the la to lay. And then we lose our leading tone. Our T becomes te. And that's on 3 or 10. Again, 10's kind of hard. So I'm doing it below the octave there. Now, if I show it played as sort of a scale and sort of just a pattern, this is what it's going to look like. And again, I'm not half-holing. And you'll hear that we don't have that, we lose that 7th degree, it's now minor. right? All right, if you want to play this, go ahead. So I wrote this piece just for this webinar. I called it Rondo. I didn't know what else to call it. It's a silly name. So again, we have a 6 flat, and then a regular 3, and a 9 flat. And you can hear this sounds kind of moody compared to what we've been playing up to this point, right? It has that darker feeling to it. It occurred to me while I was playing that just now, I wonder what would happen if I transpose this into being its parallel major. So there I took the same notes, and the ones that were minor, the 6 flat, the 9 flat, and the 3, I popped them up a half step. So I made the 6 a major 6, or the normal 6, the 9 a normal 9, and I made the 3 a 3 sharp. And you could hear the tonality of it. It changed, right? It was really much more bright and happy. I probably would change the notes if I was going to write it in that key. If you want to play along with me, I'm still in A. I know it says it's in 2-2, but I'll count it in 4. And I'll do it a little slower. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Alrighty. This is a very popular song, Wayfaring Stranger, and the beginnings of it we can play within this range of the nap. As the song goes on, we have to kind of make some adjustments, and it's actually not that effective. Right? I don't know how many of you know that tune, but it's a pretty popular tune. If you want to play it with me, let's see here. So we get 3, so 1. I'll count 1 full 3/4 measure, and we're going to come in on the and of 2. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Here's a song that everybody knows, Green Sleeve. Some people feel this was written by Henry VIII. Nobody's really sure. And this tune is in a minor tonality, except at certain points, it switches the minor 7th, the te, to a major, to the T, to make so the end of the song becomes a little bit more convincing as we go back to the do. That was in G. So you can see in the second full measure, there's a 3. But then the next measure, as he starts to approach the end of that first phrase, he switches to a 3 sharp. Then he goes back to the normal 3, back to a full minor scale. And then at the end, when he gets to the end of the phrase, he changes that to a 3 sharp. So he's basically, as he goes down, he's going into the 3, and then as he comes up, he's coming up to 3 sharp. Now, I'm using the NAV terminology for this, but normally I'd be saying the major and the minor 7th, because it's T or Te, right? If you want to play along with me, I'm in G now, and I'll go ahead and I will count the 6th, 8th notes. It's not really my choice, but I think it helps a little better on this. So, and we get a pickup on the 6th, 8th note. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And yes, I did the half holes. Now, there's a name for this technique, and it's called the melodic minor scale, and we can do the same thing. And basically put, when the melody is going down into 3, you use a 3. But if it's going up past 3 towards the do, in this case 4, so let me play this for you. Maybe a little slower. So he has that minor quality until the very end, when it suddenly gets that pull of the leading tone, the sharp 7, the sharp 3. Why don't you go ahead and play that? Here's a song from the book Lumen Vespere, Evening Light, that uses this technique. It's a minor scale on 4, so we have a 6 flat and a normal 3. I don't play a 9 here in this tune, and we go below the do, which is the 4. And then at the very end, to really solidify a harder sort of feeling of resolution, I go to the sharp 3. So I sort of am imitating this melodic minor idea. So I just throw that in there to kind of, again, make the cadence, that's what you call the end of a phrase, have a little bit more weight. Otherwise it would be, now I get that. And even though I jump to the 5 before I actually hit the 4, you can kind of hear the tension coming out of those 2 notes. Right? Whereas if I use the regular 3, it's a little softer. All right? Again, I'm showing you these ideas not only because you might see music written for this, but this is something that you can do when you're writing your own tunes or improvising. So then there's a thing called the harmonic minor scale, where instead of we having a natural minor and then raising the 3, this is in the 4 example, on the end when we're going up towards the do, we keep it all the time as a sharp 3. So we have the flat 6 and the flat 9, but always a sharp 3. This is called a harmonic minor scale. They call it that because it allows for harmonies underneath it to work a little bit better. I'm not going to go into details of that, but that's just the name. And as it says here in the bottom bullet point, this scale is a good base scale for exotic scales. So we can use this to get some exotic scales started. Here it is again, written out as a scale for the NAV. And notice how 3 sharp is raised all the time. So it's got the flat 6 and the flat 9 of a minor scale, but then I'm keeping the 3 sharp. Right, it's already got a little exoticism to it. Why don't you play that? right. Let's see here. So this is a song in the book that uses this scale. We'll look at it again later when it's sort of imitating a different scale. And again, you'll notice how we're ending on 4 in this example. And I know for a fact that this song is, the root is on 4. But this phrase starts on the 1, which is the 5th note of this scale. Again. So you can hear this has some very, like a Middle Eastern sort of quality to it, but it's a normal scale that we see in the, especially the Romantic period of Western classical music, the harmonic minor. This is a song that uses the same thing. I was working on this earlier today and I was finding it very tricky, so I'm going to take this a little slow. If you want to play this, go ahead and take a moment. And these are some of the more advanced songs in the book. These are obviously not from the front of the song collection, so they're pretty tricky. But that being said, they use these scales because they are more intricate and a little bit more advanced. Now, so we have this scale, this harmonic minor scale on 4. 4 is Do. But what would happen if we look at the scale in a different way? So we don't change the notes, we're just going to rearrange how we think about them. So on the top is the regular harmonic minor scale. And on the bottom, we have the same notes, but now Do is on 1, the bottom note of the flute. And what we get here is a different kind of scale. And in a way, you could think of this as a mode, because a mode is a collection of notes where another note suddenly becomes its Do. We don't change the notes, we just change the position of the Do and then the notes above it, re, mi, fa, sol, etc. And this is called the Phrygian dominant. It has several other names: the Spanish gypsy scale or flamenco scale, the Havaraba, the Frasius, and then a couple Indian scales which I am not going to try to pronounce. And you'll notice here that in this scale, going from Do to Do, it has to have the flat 2 to really be the true representation of the scale. Now, a flat 2 is a quarter hold. Extremely difficult on the nav. Extremely difficult. But we can play it as a flat 9 above it. So we can get this note, but we have to play it up above. All right? I can attempt to play this. I can't say I'm going to succeed. There's the quarter tone. Very, very hard. Very hard. Would never try that on stage or recording. Now, the reason why the scale works is because that flat 2 wants to slip back to the Do, just like the sharp 3 wants to go up to the 4. It's the slinkiness that this has. These relationships are sort of close, so they pull onto one another. But because we can't really play the 2 flat, it presents some problems when we write songs in this scale. So they kind of work and then they kind of don't. One of the ones that I've written for that is this one called Euphrates. And you can see I'm attempting to end on the bottom note of the flute, and I'm using the notes from the scale. So I have the sharp 3, I have the flat 6, and you can't see it here, but later on in the tune there is a flat 9. Ignore the the time signature, don't worry about it. Given the nature of the time signature, I don't think I'll have you guys play this. But if you want to look at this in more detail, it's on page 202 in the guide. Now, we looked at arabesque before, and the song ends on 4. But the beginning, the opening phrase, is trying to be in a Phrygian dominant scale, because you can see I ended on 1. So let me play this for you. Do it one more time. Now the question is, does that really sound convincing as the root? Having that lower note of the flute, the 1 of the flute, is that really the root of this scale? If you want to play this and see if that works for you, go ahead. I'm in G, but you can pick anything. And you don't have to worry about the rhythms per se. You can just play the notes randomly and still get the feeling for it. Okay, so that's the beginning of the song. And to illustrate this point, as the song goes on, and I start throwing in the flat 9, suddenly I heard in my head not the bottom note of the flute, the 1 being the root of the scale, but it switched back to 4. Because since I'm not using the flat 2, I don't get that slithery pull into the 1. Instead, it's stronger for the 4. And now if I went to 1, it just doesn't sound right to me. All right, let me play that again. And again, if I go down to 1, it just doesn't sound like the root anymore to me. So again, the scale is possible on the Native American flute, but without the flat 2 being in the lower octave, because you can see it's in there on the flat 9. It's not as effective. But we still get an exotic sounding scale. So here they are broken off sort of as a chart, a matrix, and this is something that's in the handout, so you can use this to determine if you're improvising, well, what do I do to get these scales, right? So if you want a 4 major, this is a major scale based on number tab 4, the root is going to be 4, and you're going to use a 6, a 9, and a sharp 3. If you want a minor scale, I put in their parentheses natural, but that's the normal minor is called natural. Again, you're on 4 as the root, use a 6 flat, a 9 flat, and then a regular 3. If you want a melodic minor, again, 4 is the root, 6 flat is the preferred third, then 9 flat, and then you'd use a regular 3 if the melody is going down, and then a sharp 3 if it's going up. And how you use the regular 3 and sharp 3 is totally up to you. That's sort of the stereotypical way it's described, but it doesn't have to work that way. And then harmonic minor is the 4 is the root. We have a 6 flat, a 9 flat, and a 3 sharp. So it looks like the natural minor, except that it has a 3 sharp, not a normal 3. And then a Phrygian dominant is the same as the 4 harmonic minor, but the root supposedly is on 1. So this is sort of a matrix. So if you want to start improvising in these scales and coming up with your own tunes or whatever, these are the numbers outside of the regular pentatonic minor that you would use. So in other words, I'm figuring that you're going to use the regular 1, the 4, the 5, the 7, right? I didn't need to tell you that. You could jot those in there if you wanted to, but I thought that this would make it a little less cumbersome to look at.